Hello, everyone. It's Lydia with the Avanti Wellness podcast and YouTube channel. And today I'm here with Thomas Garbarino. Hi, Thomas.
Hey Lydia, how you doing?
Good, good. Tell us where you're at right now.
I'm in Southern Oregon, and it's a
Oh,
beautiful sunny day today.
in the Pacific Coast. That's wonderful. Well, thank you for being on the show today. Let me just tell everyone I met Thomas through a mutual group. Although I don't know Thomas, so I like to let you all know I'm going to get to know Thomas along with y'all through this interview. But one of the things that Thomas has to talk about is he's a master's of acupuncture, right?
Correct.
And he works with qigong and people with autoimmune disorders or diseases, and also through somatic exercises. And we're going to learn all about what that is. I'm not even very versed in what this is, so I'm just as excited as you all are about what we're going to learn today from Thomas. So I'm going to let him get started by just introducing himself. And why don't you go back to kind of bring us up to, like, how did you get to be where you are about what we're talking about with you today?
Yeah, so I'll give you the short version, which is essentially I was very sick as a child, and for a lot of reasons, Western medicine was not helping my condition. And simultaneously, around the same time, my father also was diagnosed with a terminal cancer, and he passed on at that time, and also didn't get the answers that were helping his condition. And so you can just imagine, like, growing up in an environment like that, there was a lot of confusion, a lot of suffering. And for me, I have a sibling, but for me, what it did for me, it was like a catalyst in my heart that made me want to understand more. Like, what is there a way that the body knows how to heal that maybe actually Western medicine has no idea about? And so it started there, and then it seemed like every time, I don't know if people have this experience, but for me, it's like every time I veered away from that path that I feel like God gave me, like, things would happen, accidents, like occurrence. And so then I would like, oh, right. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be studying about, real medicine and medicine that can help really sick people. And whenever I like picked up a book or listened to a podcast, watched a video, it just would light a fire in me and inspire me to whether it's studying herbs, or, so you mentioned somatic healing, trauma healing. And ultimately what ended up happening, Lydia, was I started to get really good at autoimmune, because that was really what I had. But back then they didn't call it autoimmune, they didn't know. But nowadays we refer to it as that. And since that time, I've helped thousands of people. And we've, from all kinds of conditions. Autoimmune is a very broad term.
Yeah, describe for us what an autoimmune means.
Sure. It can be, so like in my situation, I had really an undiagnosable one that affected the neurology, and it produced seizures and tics and all kinds of dysregulating feelings in your nervous system and brain function. But most people are familiar with like MS, rheumatoid arthritis, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, Hashimoto's, what else? SIBO. Trying to think of another couple that might.
I'm thinking of one that I think it starts with an R. My childhood neighbor had it, and then she ended up passing away. I can't think of what it is.
Sure.
R, starts with an R, but anyway. So there's plenty.
There's a lot. Yeah.
It's where the body, the immune system is overactive, right? And it's fighting itself to fight.
Yeah. And I have a little bit of a different definition than what Western medicine says about it. They very much put out there it's your body attacking itself.
Right.
And from one perspective, I could see that. But the perspective that I've learned over time is it's really more an information issue. The information is not getting into the right place in the body, the communication breakdown in the systems. And, when that happens, it just causes so much inflammation. And a lot of what we do, whether it's the physical healing through, physical products like herbs or changing your diet, or it's more the energetic healing that we might talk about with qigong and somatic healing and that the messaging that your body's hearing every day, they both work.
Yeah.
So
Do you ever work with the concept of grounding? Do you believe in grounding with the earth?
absolutely, yeah, the earth, is a huge, like I'll say it from my perspective, from Tao medicine, Chinese medicine, the earth is a massive yin field of vibration, and it's always communicating with us. And I believe in our modern age, that's part of the problem is we are not hearing it. We are not listening deep enough to those messages from earth. And so, yes, grounding, earthing is like the new term, I think now, is a big part of it. And that was one of the first things that happened to me when I started doing qigong. Was to be honest, Lydia, I was not aware how much out of my body I was until I started doing this. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, all of a sudden I stopped spraining my ankle every year, or I stopped feeling so anxious all the time. It just grounded me completely. And we all need that. The earth is our mother, and it's not just metaphorical. It really does hold us and soothe us and bring us into a deeper experience of ourselves, of being human.
Yeah, and I want us to have like a open, but we talked about having like an open back and flow conversation. And one of the things that I think about when I hear about people who have seizures and things like that, I think about the electromagnetic life force like around a cell. And then I think about when you see in like an emergency movie or something and somebody goes in flatlines, and the first thing they do is they get those metal plates and they shock you back into life. And it's like, why are they putting electricity into your system? It's because they're turning on the spark again,
Yeah.
because it's actually, we are electrical beings, but there's, I think, very little about that we're really looking into. And I'm sure that what you're going to tell us is some of that comes into play in the healing process, right?
Hugely, hugely. Actually, I'll share a story. One of the first teachers that I came across earlier on in my career, when I was really exploring and finding, was a lot of this one Chinese doctor. He's quite famous actually in the Boston area. His name's Tom Tam. And I ran across him because we were in the same Tai Chi school in Boston. And he was one of the first people that clued me into, okay, so in Western medicine, we view the body through chemical reactions and implementing new chemicals into the system to change, right? To create those chemical reactions we need. And he shared with me that's only one half of the coin. The other half is what you're suggesting, this bioelectric matrix, if you will, that our body, like each and every day, like we need to connect to the earth. We need to experience hopefully some sunlight on a sunny day, or, and those are dynamic forces that have an impact on that electromagnetic field that we are. And, you know, it,
It's
it
important.
it's so important. It's essential.
And I like to use analogies when I talk to my audience on my channel. And one of the analogies that I think about to describe what we're talking about is, when people have tics that you mentioned, or they have, seizures or whatever, I think about like a pinball machine that gets tilted, and it's like tilt,
Mm,
tilt, tilt, tilt. It's
yes,
almost like that. It's like a pinball machine
I love
and
that.
everything's off balance,
Yep,
and so if you think about, your body needs to be in sync and harmony, and the ball needs to just flow through the pinball machine, ping, 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 ping. But then when you get it out of tilt, it's like it's tweaking, it's twitching and tinking, and it's just off. And
yep,
so when those things happen, those are signs that our body's talking to us. And so we need to actually figure out, what does the body need in order for us to get back in the flow and back in sync, right? So
absolutely.
it's a visual to think about, instead of going, "Oh, they're going to have that forever." No, it's just that the body's saying, "I've got it right now because something's out of whack." Right?
100%. I mean, literally, you can find in the body, like from my Chinese medicine training, you can just go up and down the spine. And if there is, like what you're suggesting, like some type of bioelectrical, we call chi block in there, and you can just put your thumb, like a massage therapist does, on that one point, and it's like a circuit breaker. You pop it back in place, and boom, it's like just like what you said, like the headache goes away, the stomach cramping goes away, whatever's gone haywire
Amazing.
in the system.
Yeah, I think my chiropractor would call that a subluxation, and then when you get adjusted, he used to say it's like pulling when your brain is the power center and it's communicating through the body, and there's hair in the drain of some pathway, and so
Right.
it's like pulling the hair out of the drain, and
Yes.
then the flow of communication gets to that body part better.
Yes. Yep.
So tell us how you work with all of that. We've identified the problems. Now what's the solution?
Yeah. So the big thing that maybe might be obvious to your audience or not is really the heart. Is like in Chinese medicine we say the heart is the sovereign, is the emperor or empress of everything. So even if we do find some blockage, like I was just referencing in the back, somewhere in the spine, there's always some connection to the heart, to the sovereign. And so the work I do primarily begins there and ends there. And that goes through a variety of different loops of, we do physical practice where we're opening up the body a little bit more. We do energetic practice, so we infuse more chi and life force into that, through dynamic movements and sometimes chanting, sometimes breathing, meditations, and then we also, those who work with me directly are we're in conversation, we're in a dialogue with whatever the felt sense experience that that individual is having in that moment. Let's say a tightness in their chest, and we, through dialogue, we're able to inquire and find some route, or I like to say like a trailhead that takes us into some place where the pain body is held in. And so through a process we are able to release that.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. So tell us more. Tell us more about that, and what does all that mean, Like, take us through the journey. Like,
Yeah.
we
I
want to
mean,
know.
yeah.
We're
Yeah.
curious. You've got us on pins and needles. How do we heal
Totally.
ourselves?
Well, the first place I always start with people is a place of acceptance, that like whatever hit you couldn't have missed you. Like for me, it's been a life journey. Me as the 6-year-old with seizures, like that came to me like as one of the greatest blessings that I'm so grateful for now. So, but first, a lot of us in the beginning that do have chronic illnesses and autoimmune conditions, we're in resistance to it. And that creates like a barrier, not just energetically, but spiritually too. And so we first have to get to a place of allowing that to open. And of course, as we do that, the heart opens up. And
Yeah,
as the
like
heart opens,
surrendering.
yeah, you gonna say something more?
No, I said like surrendering. That's all.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just like allowing that which is there to be there and accept it. So I just call it the be state, to be with it. And in time, as we're able to be in that quiet, still place and being with ourselves, then some movement starts happening from the heart. Then some love, some understanding, some compassion that is not intellectual, but is really home base and comes from your own knowing in your heart. And that begins the catalyst, that begins the healing. And then with that, we increase the capacity in which your body can take that message through the chi, through the meridians of the body. And quite surprisingly, it opens up. I mean, often when I work with people, their symptoms do get better. But the thing that they always comment about at the end is like, wow, I didn't realize how anxious I really was, or I didn't realize how much I hadn't felt peace inside myself. I hadn't felt joy in so long, or that tranquility in my day. And when that happens, then I feel like I've done my work. Like the person has now cultivated that in their life, and that's true health. That's wellness. You know.
Yeah. I mean, what you're describing it's totally in my realm, but it's very high level healing, It's very high level healing. And what I'd like for people who are just stumbling upon this podcast or this video to know that this conversation showed up in your life for a reason. And if you have I believe everything happens for a reason. So if you're finding this video and this podcast after the fact, just know that this might be one of the directions that maybe you haven't tried yet, and to consider if you're so frustrated about your situation and you're not getting the root cause healing and completion and like wrapping it up in a bow and saying, arthritis, I don't need you anymore. You've served your purpose. I've learned the lesson. It's time to move on. I plan on being a healed, happy, healthy person for the rest of my life. Like whatever your statement needs to be. Can you tell us a little more about your personal journey and what you do to stay healthy? And then the other thing I think would be helpful for our listeners is for you to maybe take us through a case study. Of course, protect the
Sure.
names of the innocent, but at the same time, like tell a story about a person that gives us hope that this
Absolutely.
can really help for people. Because we know you've worked with thousands, but we want to hear some stories.
Absolutely. I'd love to share. So to your question about what I do, um,
Or
you
how
know,
did you heal? I mean, you had these issues. How did you heal yourself?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it was definitely a long journey. It was not a quick fix.
Right.
I had moments where I feel like on the meter of health and wellness, where it shifted dramatically in you know retreat settings, where I was able to really feel what was there in my heart, where I could really let go of all the narratives and stories I had overlaid about me. Because one of those folks that are listening that grew up with the childhood illness, it's one of the hardest. Why is that? Because in your formative years while you're developing, you're being told you're lack. You're being told that you're sick. You're being told, and so you identify so strongly to that. Now, folks that weren't, you have that advantage. You have that advantage where you weren't molded in that kind of mentality. But for me, it took a lot longer because I had to work through so many layers in my younger self that identified as the boy that would go to the hospital, the boy that couldn't, play hockey or couldn't do this, couldn't do that,
Right.
right?
And
So
that's all you ever knew, really.
ex- exactly, at least in this lifetime.
Right.
And so that I would say was a big bulk of it. The physical healing, uh, that it wasn't that challenging. When you get the right medicine, the right understanding of the condition, and to be frank, like I believe, I know this is a big statement, a lot of what we all consider autoimmune, these different manifestations, whether it's ulcerated colitis, right, or Hashimoto's, their source or the root where they come from is similar. There's always some component that is off in the adrenal cortex of the body where corticosteroids are not producing enough in the system. And our body needs that each and every day. And so, getting the right food, right, that are not going to produce inflammatory response, getting the right amount of exercise. I promote Qigong because I think it's one of the best for autoimmune, and getting sunshine, having good, happy relationships. I think those are all really
And good
important.
water, having
Yeah,
good water.
great water is really important. Getting oxygen in our body, that's another big
Cells.
thing.
Yeah. I'm learning that this year. Yeah. The 4 I've learned reading books about the healthy cell concept, and it's basically what you said, like water, oxygen to the cells, because if they don't have it, that's one of their, nutritional needs. And then, of course, healthy whole foods that they're used to. And then a positive mental attitude is a big part of it. So, like you
Yes,
were saying, if you grew up sick, then you're like, well, this is all I've ever known. I was born this way, like, how do you
right.
heal from that? But I also believe, like, you probably would agree with me that you've learned now that that life you experienced is now part of the training for the life purpose that you have in this lifetime. And so you don't have to study it because you lived it, and you got instant compassion for all your future clients because you walk the journey. So I have a similar, life path where the stuff that I went through, I can be compassionate for the people that I can help and support going through it now that I'm behind it.
Yeah, yeah, it's great.
So share with us
Oh, a
some of your
story.
stories. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll share one that actually just happened relatively recently. It was a client that had like version of fibromyalgia, like this kind of chronic pain that just would not go away. And they were very much into exercising, nutrition. So like all those were checked. They got those correct. Maybe a little bit of adjustment, but they're by and large considered a healthy person. But they, for 25 years, carried this chronic pain. So we started working together, and within a short relative time, what was identified was this abandonment that happened very early on in life. And when we made space for that and brought it to the heart, then all of a sudden, this pain that this person took on, what she finally figured out was her mother died of lung cancer, and she somehow took that experience into her body. I know it sounds strange, but we can do that. And that formed into this pain. Well, as we were able to move through that, be with that, it released through her body, and 25 years of chronic pain gone, just like that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Are you gifted? And the answer may be no, I'm just asking a random question, but are you able to identify when there is a particular pain, like in a body part? Are you able to intuitively guesstimate why that pain is there so that you can go work on the source? Like, what is your skill, your
Yeah.
gifted skill set?
Yeah, no, so I very much empathic. So I feel like when I felt in that situation, I felt there was some break in her heart, that there was a loss, right? That happened. And as I kind of ask questions, I never like to assume, because I don't feel like when I'm as accurate as some, but I get a felt sense.
Yeah, enough to ask questions like, "Does
Exactly.
it feel like this? How does this try this one on for size." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, that feels like the reason, you know?"
Exactly. Yeah, so it's very similar to that, and then we just kind of follow the dialogue, and then it takes us into an experience that is out of the intellect, out of, like that reality, and in the reality of the heart. And that's when, I say that's where the miracles happen.
Would you say, like, people who've ex well, let me just ask this question, like, who is your typical person, like a demographic identified person that would end up with you? You
Sure.
know, like I know what my brain is thinking, but I don't want to answer the question. I want to hear what your answer is before
Yeah.
I make a judgment. But go ahead. Like, well, who is your typical customer? I can only imagine what I think your typical customer is, but go ahead and tell me what it is.
Yeah, it's typically someone that's lived life a little bit more. They've been on the planet a little bit longer. They've tried everything that Western medicine
Correct.
has,
That's what I was gonna say.
you know,
Like exhausted all paths
you
that they could
got it.
think of.
You got it.
Yeah,
And
that's what I
and
would
but
have
they
said.
still, somewhere in their heart, there's like this knowing they can heal. They
Uh-huh.
know somewhere that it is completely possible.
Yeah, there's an answer somewhere, they haven't found it yet. That's the mindset,
Exactly.
right? Yeah,
Exactly.
that's what I was thinking. I'm also empathic and intuitive, and also, do you know what a HSP is?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah, so I'm all those. But, yeah, but it helps. I mean, and I'm sure I was given those traits, not only through my God-given, traits, but also my environment made me super hone in on those
Mm,
aspects too. So, um, yeah, so that's interesting. So, a person who has kind of exhausted, I'm reiterating this so that the audience can think for themselves, like, who do I know that's been really exhausting all efforts but hasn't given up yet? Like the person who just says, "This is my fate. This is what my lot in life is."
right,
That's probably not the person who's going to go explore your options, because yours is more of an energetic
right,
healing that
right.
ends up causing the physical healing. So let's go down that rabbit hole, because for people who don't know what that means, like it is a rabbit hole, right? But
Yeah.
you've probably read the biology of belief. Have you?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Right. I know you're kind. She's sitting right here. So yeah, let's talk about that. Let's help people like come up to this understanding that
Mm,
belief. I have to tell you something that we're talking about belief. My friend who's in our community, I just met her like 2 months ago. She said she saw a picture of her dog on her bed, and she had this pillow that said "believe" on the pillow. And when she saw the photograph, like it just jumped out at her, and it was the word lie, LIE, lives inside of
yeah.
belief.
Yeah,
Isn't
yeah.
that amazing?
Yeah, yeah.
And so when her and I talk now, I'm like, so what belies have you been telling yourself these today? Because it is the lies in our beliefs that cause us suffering,
Yeah,
right? It's
absolutely.
not the good stuff in
Yep,
our beliefs that cause us suffering. It's the lies in our beliefs. And you were saying that you had to work on all of the beliefs that you had as a child about yourself to help
yep.
transmute those into something of positive mindset, right? So
Absolutely.
help us have that conversation right now so that the world who's listening is like, what? Oh, look at the word behind me. Look, LIE, lie, in the
Yeah.
belief. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
funny. I didn't even think of that.
Well, so what often happens is for a lot of folks, and especially folks I've worked with on autoimmune, is they will get to that awareness where they recognize like, oh, the things I'm saying to myself are hurting me, right? Like literally autoimmune, you're attacking, those attack thoughts are happening to you.
Perfect.
And we have a saying in Chinese medicine, yi dao qi dao. So where the attention goes, right, the energy flows, right?
Yeah.
So but what I often find is, okay, so then they read a book like The Secret and they're like, okay, I'm just going to start changing my thoughts. I'm going to change the thoughts. I'm going to be more positive. I'm going to love myself more. And somehow that isn't enough. It's like it hits the surface and maybe you get one that penetrates through, but most often the case that I hear from people, oh, I've already tried that. I've already tried that. I've tried to think more positive, change my thoughts. But what they're missing is they got to get it in the heart, right? It's still in the head. It's still in that computer up there. And that's really, if I could really summarize what I do, is I'm a bridge, that I'm a midwife that gets you from your head down to your heart, feeling that. And then really like spirit, God, the unity consciousness does the healing. Yeah.
Right. Right. And the God spirit in all of us. And I'm reading a book right now that just, it's have you heard of the oil that heals, which is all about castor oil? Have you read that book?
No, I haven't. I'm familiar with castor oil, but no, I haven't heard that book.
Yeah, Barbara O'Neill talked about it, and so I got the book, and like this is going to throw a lot of people up for a loop, but they basically said like everything that's a disease is healable,
Yeah.
but it's not an easy journey, because you have to like really change and transform all of this that created the disease in the first place. But a lot of people don't want to think they created a disease. So this is like blasphemy for me to even say this. I'm just talking about, don't get mad at me. I'm talking about the book. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the book is saying that, when you believe and understand that like nothing exists but God, light, and love, and all that, when you really get that into the heart, which is what you help people do, you can heal from the things that are being told are unhealable, but it's not an easy journey. So like not a lot of people ever really get to that experience, but there are people who do get to that experience, and some of it's called miraculous,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. 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 No,
Yeah.
I started working with a business coach, and that's what they kept saying back to me. They were like, "So this sounds like miracle healing," and I was like, "Well, I guess so," but I had to change my understanding of what a miracle really is, and having done that, I would say, yeah, it completely is.
Yeah. Yeah. But a lot of us would say you heal yourself, right? So
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
because
So
you have to
let
do
me
the work.
clarify. I'm not the one doing the healing.
Right, right. So we heal ourselves with God's source, whatever you want to
Exactly.
call it, with higher mind, with energy source, whatever you want to call it, that the higher power,
Yeah.
but at the same time, creator, but at the same time, just that concept of that disease can manifest from things like our thoughts, or a lot of times I've read where like cancers, there's usually an angry, I think it's Edgar Casey who said that you can't
Mhm.
hate your neighbor and not have cancer or something like that. Like I'm
Mm.
paraphrasing, really butchering up that comment, but basically, like he found that most cancers had an element of anger and unsuppressed and uncommunicated emotions that haven't gotten out. So people who are in this experience, this can be frustrating to hear somebody say something like this. But what I want to tell y'all is that when you realize, like, even if you don't believe it, but you say, well, what if she's right? And I do have the power to reverse this. Like, so the other stance is I'm a victim and I can't do anything about it. And this is my lot in life. And so I just have to live in this misery and horrible situation. That's one opportunity for you to choose. What if you just believed, whether it was true or not, that maybe I could change this? And so, which camp do you want to sit in? Do you want to sit in the maybe I could try to change it? Then let's go after that. And so, believe me, it'll keep you busy and you'll be on a rabbit hunt. But if you win and you find that healing, it's all worth it. Would you say, Thomas?
100% and some more. Because
Yeah.
it's not just, I mean, the physical body will heal, but it's really what happens to you. Your understanding, like I was saying earlier, like you get an upgrade of what freedom feels like, what love, what peace, all of these qualities that we all aspire to have in our life. Um, you get an upgrade.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. And you know what? That's like a great place to wrap up this conversation. I feel like we've flowed in this direction long enough. I want to share that I call myself, like, when people kind of go like, well, what are you? And I just coined this term that I saw called a joyologist, because isn't
I
that
love it.
fun? Yes, because, well, first of all, my real middle name, my mom named me Joy. And so my name is
Mm.
Lydia Joy Smith. So I've been trying to live into that my whole life. And so I did really good when I was young. And then, like, tragedy struck. And then it got really hard to be Miss Joy. And so I've learned that joy is what we create for ourselves. And so it's just a matter of, like, being scientific about how to create and how to study joy. And when you study joy, you experience joy because you're always focused on joy. And so you're going to have joy if you create it. So even when tragedy and struggle and strife and challenge is in your world, you can choose joy, just like you can choose happiness and you can choose freedom, which is what he just said. So I call myself a joyologist because I am studying joy for the rest of my life.
I love that.
Yeah, isn't that fun? So, if anybody wants to find you or work with you, can you tell us your websites and how people can contact you, or any social platforms that you're on, or what do you got going on that people can connect with you on?
Yeah, if you just use my name, thomasgarbarino.com, that'll take you to my page. And then you can also find me Instagram, Facebook, same name, same handle, Thomas Garbarino.
Lucky you got them all.
Yeah,
You didn't have to be Thomas Garbarino 1, 2, 3.
right.
Awesome. Well, I thank you for being here today and trusting me to, highlight you and have this conversation with you. And I know you're bringing a lot of awareness and good things to the world. And I just appreciate your time to let us discover more about you and the good you're doing in the world.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here, Lydia. I mean, I really have enjoyed this conversation and connecting with you, and love to maybe we'll do something similar in the future. I'd love to connect some
Yeah,
more.
I would love that too. We'll have you on the Oneness Junkie podcast and YouTube channel next. How about
Sweet.
that?
Sounds lovely.
Awesome. Well, you hang in there and you have a nice weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. You take good care.
All right. Bye bye.